All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started with lesson 14. Up to now, we've been working with dividing multi-digit numbers, and we've been working on that so we can get to where we are today. In this lesson, we're going to be dividing multi-digit numbers with decimals, okay? So today's objective is I can use the algorithm to divide multi-digit numbers with decimals. I can use my knowledge of dividing multi-digit numbers to solve for quotients of multi-digit decimals. Okay, so we're going to be working with decimals and dividing, and there's some rules to follow when you do this, and let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the opening exercise, we all remember how to divide fractions. Remember the skip dot flip rule. Okay, so the first problem tells us to divide 1/2 by 1/10. Okay, and this is just going to be an example. We skip dot flip. Okay, and then we can cancel out the 10 and the 2. That's 1 and that's 5. So our answer comes out to 5/1, which is equals 5. Okay, so keep the answer 5 in your mind real quick. Okay, and now let's look at this. Let's look at the problem again, and let's represent each expression using decimals. Okay, so 1/2 as a decimal would be 0.5. Okay, and 1/10 as a decimal is exactly how you say it, just 1/10. Okay, 0.1. So this is how they look, and let's solve for this. Okay, now in order to divide numbers with decimals, you have to make the divisor a whole number. Okay, so I have 1/10. Okay, and I need to make that a whole number. And to make it a whole number, it needs to turn into 1. Okay, to do that, I need to move this decimal. Okay, and I need to move it one space to the right, and that's going to make that 1. Okay, whatever I do to the divisor, I have to do to the dividend, which in this case is 0.5 or 5/10. Okay, and you have to move the decimal the same amount of times that I moved the 0.1. Okay, so it's going to be 1 time, and now my new problem turns into 5 divided by 1, which equals 5. Okay, so we get the same answer as we got when we divided fractions. Okay, and this was just a good example to show you what we need to do in order to divide numbers with decimals. Okay, remember you need to make the divisor, which is the number that's going into the number. You need to divide that. And you need to turn that into a decimal before you can divide that. Okay, you need to turn it into a whole number before you can divide that. Okay, so let's look at exercises 1 through 3. Okay, what we're going to be doing is we're just going to set these problems up, and we're not going to solve, we're just going to set them up the way we would if we were going to divide them. So I have 18 and 6/10 divided by 2 and 3/10. Okay, so we look at the divisor. All right, I have 2 and 3/10. I need to make that a whole number, so I need to move this decimal one space to the right. Okay, so now 2 and 3/10 turns into 23. And since I moved the decimal once in the divisor, I need to move it once in the dividend. So 18 and 6/10 now turns into 186. Okay, now that's how our problem sets up, and we can solve that regularly like we've been doing the last few days. Okay, so now let's look at number 2. Do you notice a difference between number 2 and number 1? Well, yeah, they're both in the hundreds place. Okay, but it doesn't change our rule. We still need to make the divisor a whole number. Okay, the dividend doesn't always have to be a whole number, we just always have to match how many times we move the decimal in the divisor as well. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to move the decimal 2 places to the right. So I have to do the same thing to the dividend. So now my problem turns into 1,404 divided by 468. Okay, and then now you can go ahead and solve and come out with your answer. Okay, now let's look at number 3. I have 162 thousands divided by 36 thousands. Okay, I need to make this a whole number. So I need to move this decimal 3 times. Okay, now we're moving it 3 times. So I need to move it 3 times as well in my dividend. Okay, so now my new problem turns into 162 divided by 36. Okay, so technically speaking, for number 1, we multiplied each number by 10. Every time you multiply a number with the decimal by 10, the decimal moves 1 place to the right. Okay, if you multiply it by 100, you move the decimal 2 places to the right, and if you multiply it by 1,000, it moves 3 places to the right, and so on and so forth. Okay, it's easier just to remember that you need to make the divisor a whole number before you can divide. Okay, so we determined that we multiplied the divisor by a power of 10. The decimal point is moved to the right. The number of times we multiply by a power of 10. How many places does the decimal point move to the right when we multiply the divisor by 100? Okay, like I said before, if we multiply the number with the decimal by 100, it's going to move 2 places to the right. Okay? Now, let's look at example 2. Okay? I have 25 and 2/10 divided by 72 hundredths. Okay? The first thing that I have to do is I have to turn 72 hundredths into a whole number. How I'm going to do that is I'm going to move the decimal 2 places to the right, okay, which is 72. Okay? Now, I have to move it 2 places to the right in the dividend as well. But my dividend is 25.2. Okay, I don't have 2 numbers after the 2, or after the decimal. Okay, so I have to add 1. I'm going to move the decimal once, and I need to move it 1 more time, so it's going to go here. In this empty space, I'm going to put a 0. Okay, so now my problem turns into 2,520 divided by 72. Okay, and then we can solve this now. Okay, 72 goes into 252. Let's try 3 times. This is 15, 21, 22. Oh, sorry. This is 6, and then 21. So 216, okay, 4 times would be too much, so it is 3 times. I have 216, I subtract this, and I get 36, and I bring down the 0. 72 is going to go into 360. I know 70 times 5 is 350. So 72 times 5 is going to be, look at that, 360 evenly. So our answer comes out to 35. Okay, so when you move the decimal a certain amount of times in the divisor, okay, in the number that's going into the number you're dividing, you have to move the same amount in the dividend. And if there's not enough numbers, you need to add zeros in order to move the decimal that many times, okay? So sometimes your number becomes bigger, okay? And or it adds more numbers, and that's okay. Okay, add zeros when you need them. Okay? Let's look at exercises 4 through 7. We'll start with number 4. I have 2,000 divided by 3 halves, or 3 and 2 tenths, okay? 2,000 divided by 3 and 2 tenths. So I need to move the decimal one place to the right to make this 32. Okay, but now 2,000 doesn't have a decimal. Okay, so every number has an imaginary decimal. Every whole number has an imaginary decimal at the end. So just think of it being at the end, and we're going to move it one place to the right. Okay, there's an empty space there, so we have to add a 0. So now 2,000 turns into 20,000. 3 and 2 tenths turns into 32, and we can complete our division problem. Okay, 32 doesn't go into 20, but it does go into 200 6 times. All right, we have 32 times 6. This is 12, 18, 19. We have 192. We subtract that, and we get 8. Bring down the 0. 32 goes into 80 twice. That is 64. We subtract that, we get 16. Bring down the last number, which is a 0. And 32 is going to go into 160 5 times. I'm going to check if we are even. And we are. So our answer to number 4 is 625. So if a number does not have a decimal, you're going to have to add the decimal to the end of the number, move it one place to the right, and add a 0. Okay? Let's look at number 5. I have 3,581 and 9 tenths divided by 4 and 9 tenths. So I need to make the divisor a whole number. I'm going to move it one space to the right. I have to do the same thing to the dividend. So now my new problem turns into 35,819 divided by 49. All right, so 49 doesn't go into 35, but it does go into 358 7 times. Okay, 49 times 7, 63, 28, 24, 34. So I have 343. I'm going to take that off from 358. This is 5 and 1, and I bring down the 1. 49 goes into 151 3 times. Okay, 3 times 49 is 147. I subtract that, and I'm left with 4. Bring down the last number, which is a 9, and look at that. 49 goes into itself one time, no remainder, so our answer comes out to 731. All right, guys, a couple more problems, and then I'll let you go on your own. I have number 6. Number 6 is 893 and 76 hundredths divided by 21 hundredths. I'm gonna move the decimal twice to make 21 a whole number, and I'm gonna move it twice as well to make 893 and 76 hundredths. I'm gonna change that to 89,376. Okay. And again, the dividend doesn't have to be a whole number. You just have to move it how many times you moved it in the divisor. Okay, so 21 goes into 89. 21 goes into 89 4 times. That is 84. You subtract this and you get 5. Bring down the 3. 21 goes into 53 twice. That is 42. You subtract that and you get 11. 21 goes into 117 5 times. That is 105. You subtract that and you get 12. And the last number is a 6. 21 is going to go into 126 6 times. And I'm going to see if it's even. And it is. Okay, so our answer comes out to 4,256. Now, my last problem is number 7. I have 6 and 194 thousandths divided by 326 thousandths. I need to make the dividend or the divisor a whole number, so I'm going to move it 3 places to the right. I have to do the same thing to the divisor, okay? So now my new problem turns into 6,194 divided by 326, okay? 326 doesn't go into 6 or 61, so we have to start with 619, and it only goes into it one time because twice would be too much. Okay, so I subtract 326 from this. I get 3, 9, and 2, 293. So it was almost twice, but not quite. And then I have 2,934. I need to figure out how many times 326 goes into that. And I'm going to say it's either 8 or 9. So let's try 9 first. I have 326 times 9. This is 54, 18, 23. 27, 29. So it is 9 times. It goes into it evenly with no remainders. So our answer comes out to 19. All right, guys. So you're going to have a problem set that looks like this. I want you to try it on your own. You don't have to turn it in. I'm going to go over it tomorrow. Okay. So I just want to talk and show you. Look at number 2 real quick. Okay. Before you get started. You have to turn 6 into a whole number, so you have to move it once to the right, okay? But in my dividend, if I only move it once, it doesn't make it a whole number, but that's okay because the dividend doesn't always have to be a whole number, okay? And remember, when you divide with the dividend, with the decimal, all you do is bring the decimal straight up, and you just divide normally like you would do anytime. All right, guys, if you have any questions, let me know. Remember to add zeros when you need to add zeros. And tomorrow I will go over the rest of the problem set, which involves some word problems. Okay? Have a great day, guys. If you have any questions, let me know.